Hey guys, and welcome to what will probably be your last grammar lesson of the year. Today we're talking about active and passive voice, which is how you write sentences. And there is a correct way and an incorrect way to do it, so we want to make sure that you know how to do it correctly so your writing is super amazing every time you write a fantastic sentence. So, for the rest of the slideshow, I will probably turn my camera off because there's a wasp that won't leave me alone, and I don't want you to see all of the terrified faces that I make. But I did get a new headset and I wanted to show it off. Look how cool it is. So make sure you tell me that I sound a lot clearer and it really helps you so I don't feel so guilty about spending a lot of money on it. Thanks. Here we go. So before we really dig into how to tell the difference between active and passive and how to write in each style, we have to do some review stuff so you know what I'm talking about. So these next few slides are kind of a review because we haven't talked about them since the beginning of the year. So transitive verbs can be active or passive. And a transitive verb, that's basically a fancy way of saying a verb that shows action and one that has a direct object. If you're panicking because you can't remember what a direct object is, I'll go over it here in a minute. So, therefore, sentences can be described as being in the active voice or the passive voice. So first, let's take a moment to make sure we understand the basics of sentence structure. Here's the sentence we're looking at. The mechanic fixed the car. Fixed is the main verb in the sentence. It's what is happening in the sentence. It's the action. What did the mechanic do? He fixed the car. And then the mechanic is the subject of the sentence. He's also the one performing the action of fixing. So remember, a subject is whoever or whatever is performing the verb. The car is the object of the sentence. A direct object is the what after an action verb. So fixed is our action verb. What did he fix? The car. That makes it the direct object of fixed. The car is not performing the action, but it is being acted upon. Alright, so let's see if you remember how to do this. Try to identify the subject, verb, and object in the following sentence as practice. Number 1, the tall boy jumped for the ball. Number 2, James and Susan ran a marathon today. Number 3, pizza was eaten at lunchtime. Number 4, she will write a play for the drama club. Number 5, the dishes were washed by Juan. Alright, so now we have them labeled. The subject is in the purple writing there, the verb is underlined, and the object is in green. I think that's green. So number 1, jumped is our verb. What did he jump for? The ball. Your verb is ran for number 2. What did they run? A marathon. You'll notice number 3 does not have an object. Number 4, write is your verb. What will they write? A play. And number 5 also does not have an object. So now identify whether the subject is performing the action directly, so they are directly doing something, or if it's something that's being acted upon. These subjects are performing the action. The tall boy jumped. He's jumping directly. James and Susan ran. She will write. These subjects are being acted upon. Pizza was eaten. The dishes were washed. Those are regular nouns. They can't really do anything, so they're acted upon. So that's essentially the difference between the active and the passive voice. If the subject is the thing performing the action, the sentence is in the active voice. So that's how the majority of people write their sentence. Subject, verb, direct object. If the subject is the thing being acted upon, then the sentence is in the passive voice. Some teachers really don't like it when you write in passive voice, but sometimes it is okay to write in passive. So we'll talk about that later, but just be aware, when you get older and you start writing big essays, your teacher might not want you to write in passive at all. So let's focus on the active voice. In active sentences, the thing performing the action is the subject of the sentence, and the being acted upon is the object. Most sentences are active. For example, Sarah is eating an apple. Sarah is the subject of the sentence, and she is the one performing the action of eating. She is doing the action. The subject is actively doing something. Passive voice, however, is the thing being acted upon is the subject of the sentence, and the thing doing the action is included near the end of the sentence. So passive is kind of flipped all around so that the actual subject doing something isn't at the beginning. For example, an apple is being eaten by Sarah. That is the passive version of the sentence that we just looked at. We just flipped it all around, so now it's passive. So now we have an apple as the subject of the sentence, but it is the thing being acted upon or being eaten. The apple is not technically doing anything. Sarah is the one doing the eating, so this is passive. So it's important to remember that the end, where we added by Sarah, is technically optional. You could just say an apple is being eaten, and it is still a passive sentence. All right, so let's practice. Can you tell if the following sentences are in the active or passive voice? Number 1, we are going to the cinema tonight. Number 2, the whole road was built by just 5 men. Number 3, stories were read to them by the teacher. Number 4, Rhea sent her letter to the police. Number 5, the forms will be signed by the manager. Make sure you're looking at what the subject is and if the subject is actively doing something in the sentence. All right, so number 1 is active. We are actively going to the cinema. But number 2 is passive. The road was built by 5 men. The men are the ones who built it, but we don't have them as the active subject. Same with number 3, it's passive. Number 4 is active, and number 5 is passive again. If you've noticed, a good hint to see if it is a passive voice sentence is if you have by the blank at the end of the sentence. But be careful, here are some slightly less obvious ones. The car was fixed. What's the subject? The car is the subject. Is the car performing the action of fixing? Nope, it is being acted upon. The car is not actually doing anything in the sentence. Someone else is fixing it. So it's in the passive voice, even though we don't have the car was fixed, say, by the mechanic. What sometimes trips people up here is that we don't know who was doing the fixing, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so this one, shut the door. What's the subject? That's the problem. There doesn't seem to be one. We talked about this a tiny bit back when we were in school. I don't remember what lesson we were on, but I did bring it up. A few of you remembered. It is an implied subject of you. Remember, when it's a command, there's an imaginary subject of you. So technically we're saying, you shut the door. This is a special type of sentence called an imperative. It is a command. Most commands are in the active voice. So if you see a command sentence and you're trying to figure out if it's active or passive, if it's commanding something, it's probably going to be active. Why is any of this important? When writing a sentence, you may want to place emphasis on different elements of the sentence. So that means that you want to make certain words seem more important than other words. So this is an active sentence. A mysterious thief stole an expensive painting. Here, the emphasis is on the thief. We're focusing on the thief in the sentence. Here is the passive version. An expensive painting was stolen by a mysterious thief. And this one, the emphasis is on the painting. So the passive sentence, we're making it sound like the painting is the main focus or the more important thing here. This is particularly useful in newspaper headlines. We see a lot of different writing styles in journalism to get different points across. So look at this one. London revealed as world's busiest city. The choice of passive tense here clearly emphasizes the city. They're trying to make London seem really important. However, the passive tense can sound, that's a typo, can sound clumsy and incorrect. So why else would one ever use it? Reason 1. The doer of the action is unknown. We don't know who is doing it. This sacred text was written in the 15th century. Reason 2. The doer of the action is not important. A cure for cancer has been discovered. These are examples. I forgot to say that on the last one. Reason 3. You do not want to specify who the performer of the action was. You want to keep it a mystery. Mistakes have been made. See how it's more dramatic? Reason 4. You are speaking about a general truth. Rules are made to be broken. Not necessarily. So how do you work out if a sentence is written in the passive or active voice? Number 1, find the main verb in the sentence. Then find the subject and identify, is the subject performing the action? If it is performing the action, then it is active. And then, for passive, ask yourself if the subject is the thing being acted upon. Then it is passive. If the subject's not actually doing anything, it's going to be passive. Okay, so that was active and passive voice. Hopefully you can now correctly use passive and active voice in your writing. I'm okay with passive as long as it doesn't get too confusing. The issue with that is sometimes it can really make your sentence not make a lot of sense, and it seems like you're trying to fill in random words when you could just do an active voice and get straight to the point. So that was probably your last grammar lesson. I know you're really sad about that. Use this video, and I'm posting some PDFs of some cheat sheets for your forms assignment, and let me know if you have any questions. Signing out, if I can find the right button.